All right, what's going on, everybody? My name is Colin Brandon, and here at my channel, all we really do is talk sports all day, every day. So if you have a suggestion, you have a topic you want to talk about, drop it in the comments. I'd be more than happy to, take suggestions. Um, Today we are talking March Madness one seeds. Now remember, this is not a Final Four. This is one seeds. This is very important that you know that, because it's going to clear up a lot of confusion. Honestly, it'll probably save a lot of people's feelings from getting hurt. If I'd appreciate a like, and if at the end of this video, if I provide you some value, some sort of entertainment, I'd love if you subscribed. But without any further ado, let's get into it. So I'm going to lay out my 4 1 seeds, and then I'm going to kind of break them down on kind of why I think that those teams will be the 1 seeds come this March Madness. 1 is going to be the number 1 team in the country, Gonzaga. 2, I'm going to University of Illinois, and that's not just by my bias. Okay, maybe a little bit is biased, but not a ton, okay? I really think that they could be a 1 seed this year. Villanova and Arizona State. And now let's break them down. So, why do I think that Gonzaga can be a 1 seed? Well, Gonzaga's out of conference this year is extremely tough. Probably one of the toughest non-cons in the entire country. But then their conference is probably one of the, based off of their skill level, probably one of the easier conference schedules. Definitely one of the easier conference schedules. So, I don't think they'll really have any trouble in conference, and probably will go undefeated in conference. But their non-conference is Kansas, Auburn, and that's coming back to back. Like they play Kansas, I think it's like a 5:00 in the afternoon game on Thanksgiving, and then the day after Thanksgiving, they play Auburn at like 10 in the morning. And that's Central Time. So, adjust that for whatever time zone that you're in. So playing those 2 teams back to back, Kansas is definitely going to be a tougher team, and Auburn I think is a sleeper. I think that they'll make the tournament this year. It's a tournament team as it stands right now. I mean, I could change my mind on Auburn once we actually see basketball actually being played. But not an easy game coming off short rest. Then they have Baylor on December 5th, and then Iowa on December 19th. So Kansas, Auburn, Baylor, Iowa. They get 3 top 10 teams in the non-conference, which is absolutely crazy. But I think that they can win all those. This team, you have a starting lineup of Joel Ayayi, Jalen Suggs, Corey Kispert, Anton Watson, and Drew Timme. Like, it's going to be insane, okay? Drew Timme, I think, is going to make a huge leap in his, just progress as a player this year, and be one of the best big men in college basketball. We know what we have in Corey Kispert. He's a preseason All-American according to ESPN. Jalen Suggs, best recruit that Mark Few's ever had. They're good, and they are balanced. I really like this team. I think that they can win, 4 out of those, or 3 out of the 4 games. They might lose 1. But I don't think they're losing more than 1. Who knows? Is it going to be Iowa? Is it going to be Kansas? Is it going to be Baylor that upsets them? My money would be on Baylor or Iowa are going to be the one that's going to give them the most run for their money. Between Baylor and Iowa, I think it could be Iowa just because Iowa can keep up scoring like Gonzaga can. But either way, hey, if they get through the non-con with only 1 loss, this is legitimately a team that could only lose 1 game all season. Like, if you think something else about that, if you think something different about anything, comment. I want to know you guys' thoughts. I want to have a discussion. That's why I started this channel, because not many people I know actually like care about college sports on the level that I do, and I want to talk about it. So that's why I started this channel. So please discuss. Yeah, so that's why Gonzaga with 1 loss is going to be a 1 seed. Now on to Illinois. Now this one is going to be a tough one, and you know what? There could be a discussion here, and I'll listen to it. If you think a different team other than Illinois is going to be a 1 seed in March Madness, let me know. So I think that a Big Ten, whoever wins the Big Ten regular season, is probably going to be a 1 seed, especially if they do well in the Big Ten tournament as well. I think the Big Ten, whoever wins it, is probably going to have one of the strongest resumes on, in college basketball, just based on how deep the Big Ten is this year. They have 8 teams, or 7 or 8 teams in the preseason top 25. with a couple receiving votes. Right now, the conference looks like it's the deepest out of every conference. Legitly, they could have 9 teams in the tournament. It is a strong field the Big Ten is this year, and I think it comes back to balance. I think Illinois is one of the most balanced teams. They have amazing guard play. Io, Trent Frazier, their defense is outstanding. They got a cold-blooded shot maker in Io. They've got good big men in Kofi, or a good big man in Kofi. And hopefully if Georgie B can get, back to how he kind of was as a freshman, that is going to prove to be huge too. They got good freshmen in Andrew Miller, Andre Curbelo. That guard tandem is going to be, I think, incredible for years to come. And those guys backing up right now, Trent Frazier and Io, is going to be huge. I legitly think that this team could give any team in the nation a run for their money. They have Baylor and Duke in the non-conference, and I think those are both winnable games. I think that I would like to say Illinois is going to split that. Or I'd love to say that Illinois is going to win both, but I think realistically a split. But hey, I'm rooting for them to win both. I really am, and I think that that's going to give us a good picture of what the rest of the season is going to look like. And I think that they're going to end up being at the top of the Big Ten. They'll probably win a couple of games in the Big Ten tournament. Maybe not win it, but I think that they could definitely win it. And then they're going to end up being a 1 seed with only a couple of losses, most likely. Now, who knows? They could end up getting beat up a little bit in the Big Ten, and maybe another team swoops in. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments, because I can see that going that way too. But this team right now, I just think is so balanced. They're playing their best basketball last year when the season ended. Returned almost everybody but Andres Feliz from a very good Illinois team. I just think that this team could legitly be a 1 seed. So now we got my next team is going to be Villanova, and the reason I think that is just because I don't think that there's a team in the Big East that is going to hold a candle to what Villanova has to offer this year. Jay Wright is a phenomenal coach. His good teams always have great senior guard play, and I think Colin Gillespie is going to be able to step up and be like that Josh Hart, be like that Jalen Brunson. Maybe not necessarily on that level, but it's going to be pretty close. And I think Jeremiah Robinson-Earl is going to step up this year. I mean, he almost averaged a double-double as a freshman, so stepping up, he's already doing that as a freshman, he did. But I think his numbers will even get better this year. And he can make a case for maybe being an All-American. Definitely All Big East, and maybe even All-American. They're returning 4 double-digit scorers, and adding, a transfer from Tulane who also scored in double digits. Now we'll see if that might not necessarily transfer to Big East play, but either way, they're returning 4 guys in their starting rotation that average 10 points a game. That's pretty valuable in college basketball. Now, their non-conference, they have Texas and Virginia, so they don't have the best out-of-conference schedule. Texas is top 25 preseason, and Virginia is very strong. That's going to be probably their hardest game all season. But I think they can win both those. The Texas game, I would have them winning for sure. Virginia game is going to be a toss-up. And even if they lose that, this is another team that could legitly have 1 loss. Maybe they slip up once or twice in the Big East, but I don't necessarily see it this year. I don't, just with how the landscape of everything is. I mean, Creighton's good. They're not Villanova good. But Creighton is the type of team that can score enough that they could just straight up outscore you without, they wouldn't have to get many stops. They're hot. But I think that balance is what wins in college basketball these days. And probably it's what always has won. And so the teams that are more balanced are teams that I think are going to do better. So that's, Gonzaga's balanced, Illinois' balanced, Villanova's super balanced. And I legitimately think that Villanova could end the season with less than 5 losses. And thus my reasoning for them being a 1 seed. Now, let's talk about Arizona State. Arizona State is a team that I think has crazy potential. They really do. They're bringing back preseason All-American Remy Martin. Alonzo Verge, also a senior. and that's two, 14-plus point scorers a game, which is super valuable. It's valuable to have senior leadership at the guard position, because they're the floor general. They're the captains out there making decisions, making plays. They're kind of the emotional leaders too. And I think that, they got some good ones down there in Tempe. Add in a couple, top recruits and Josh Christopher, Marcus Bagley, and they're out of conference. Their toughest opponent is going to be Baylor, which I think that Baylor is probably going to win that game, but who knows? Maybe Arizona State upsets them. But other than that, it's just then the Pac-12 schedule, and if we can get some consistency out of Arizona State this year, I'm hearing Jalen Graham. I'm hearing people are very high on him and think that he could be a breakout star this year. Maybe not a star, but I think he could break out and have a big year, which would be big because they need some good forward play. They need to lock down on defense, and if they can hit some threes, which I think Marcus Bagley is going to help out a ton with, I think that this is a good team. I think that they're probably the least balanced team out of all of them. But I think Martin, Verge, Christopher Bagley. I think Christopher and Bagley are going to help balance it a lot more. Maybe not. I could be wrong. But then I think that they could run the table in the Pac-12. Maybe they lose a couple games, but I just think that they get in. I don't think that like ACC teams are going to be able to be a 1 seed because I think they're going to beat up on each other for the same reason. I believe that the Big 12, like Baylor, I know I'm speaking really high of them. Like 3 out of my 4 teams play Baylor in the non-conference. And I think Baylor is going to be really good and like legitimately have a chance to beat all of the 1 seeds that they play. But I think that the Big 12 is just going to be, it's going to be tough. Not as tough as the Big 10, so maybe it's hypocritical of me for saying that Illinois is in and Baylor's not, but I really like this Illinois team, and it's not biased. Maybe it is, but I think that the Illinois is just going to be more balanced. They have big-time shot makers. They lock down on defense. They are gritty. They are very similar teams. But I just think that Illinois has the edge. And, the Big 12 is strong. And I really, so these are my 14. And like I said, this is my 1 seeds, not necessarily my Final Four. You know what? If you guys want a Final Four video, let me know in the comments, and I'll drop that for you too. But hey, you want to talk some sleepers, some San Diego States, they could have been a 1 seed this year. Dayton, they could have been a 1 seed this year. What kind of teams do I think could be 1 seeds that might come out of nowhere like those teams did? You know what? We got maybe like a Tennessee. Tennessee probably wouldn't come out of nowhere, but I legitimately think that they could, win the SEC and maybe end up a 1 seed. If not, I could see them legitimately being, a 2 through 4 for sure. Maybe Duke or Virginia. I mean, those are pretty easy teams to say because, they've been 1 seeds a fair amount of times. And that team I really like is Houston. Houston they got a solid non-conference, Texas Tech and Alabama. Alabama, I think, is pretty underrated. They're receiving votes right now, but could easily slip into the top 25, early in the season. I think Houston's going to run the table in the American. Memphis is going to be tough. There's going to be some tough games in the American. The American's a good conference. That's why it's the Power 6 in basketball. It's because the American, actually no, Power 6 probably is referring to the Big East, but there are legit teams in the American. It's a good conference. So maybe Houston runs table and makes it in as the Dayton or San Diego State of last year. This could legitimately happen. Let me know what you guys think. Drop a comment. Please subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Just trying to grow this thing. So that is my 4 1 seeds. If you want a video on my Final Four, drop a comment. I'd be happy to give that to you. Probably going to be a lot more discussion when it comes to that because there's a lot more bias and give me some hurt feelings. But that's all right. That's what sports is about. I thank you for watching. If you don't follow me, on Instagram, on TikTok, follow me in those 2 places. I'm most active on TikTok, and this YouTube channel started because of the love I got on TikTok. So if you're here from TikTok, let me know in the comments because I want to know who you guys are. Thank you so much for the support on that, and let's continue growing this thing. Thanks, guys.